think there's still some back there. I don't think we've ran out just yet. So, all right.
Okay. Like she said, my name's Lawrence Panther, and I'm from Little Kansas area. And I went to J school for a couple of years, then I went to Seneca, then I graduated for Sequoia. But I just want to say OCO, Tohija, hello, how are y'all? And Galili, did you look in? I'm glad y'all are here. Also, just want to kind of go through a brief statements through our daily life. It was like at Seneca. From my point of view, okay, I'll begin with also from the beginning, from J. Okay, it was, I can remember very well, December the 8th, 1964, 4 p.m. or rather 3 p.m. We left at J. I didn't know where I was going or what was happening. All I know that we just packed a bunch of clothes up in a box. It was me, my brother Elmer, and my sister Josie, and a younger brother named John. They had our boxes full of clothes in there, and we was standing in front of the courthouse. And about around 3 o'clock, station wagon pulls up, and the superintendent from the Seneca Indian School was driving it. And he's the one that took us to Seneca that afternoon. And I remember when I was leaving Jay, there was a three-seater station wagon. The back seat was, I guess you could say backwards. Anyway, me and my younger brother was sitting in the back. And I remember as we left Jay, I could just see, Jay going away like that. And I didn't know where we was going. They didn't tell me. Anyway, about 4 o'clock that afternoon, we reached Seneca at Wyandotte at the Indian School. And I remember it's about 4 o'clock because it's whenever the school was out. I remember all them students coming around there. Usually when there was a new student or a new student there at the Indian School, everybody would come around. They would try to see if it was their cousin or somebody they knew. And that's what they done when we was all sitting there, me and my brother and John. And all these students, the boys, they come around and they look us over, and try to probably recognize us or something like that. And but anyway, I remember that day, December the 8th, 1964, 4 p.m. It was on a Tuesday when we got there. I always remember that. But anyway, they divided us up. And my brother stayed at what they call the big boys dorm. It was the units 1, 2, and 3. Then me and my younger brother went to the other unit. It was called Unit 5. It was grades from like kindergarten through 3rd grade that stayed there. And the aforementioned dorm, it was like from 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, but they were also divided. The 7th and 8th graders stayed in Unit 1, and Unit 2 was 5th and 6th grade, and the rest of us would stay in Unit 3. I don't know where Unit 4 was. Where was it, Alex? What was Unit 4 at? They had one. Okay. They had one for the girls. Oh, did they? Okay, I guess it was over the girls' department. Okay. Anyway, they would separate you by the ages, and by the grade. And I wound up down at Unit 5, and it was one long a dormitory. The girls were on one side, and this younger ones, K through 3, was on this side. And I roomed in room 5 and room 10 and room 11. But when I first got there, though, for about the next 3 weeks, it was in December, then there's going to have a Christmas break. But within those 3 weeks there, I was so lonely, I didn't know what to think. I was just lost. And every night for those 3 weeks, I would cry. And they would try to come in and try to comfort me, but it wouldn't do no good. Because I didn't know what was going on. It was really sad for me. Being used to running around, and being free almost, you could say. But then when you go to an Indian school like that, well, it seemed like some of your privileges were taken away from you. But it took some adjusting for me in the long run. I think anybody that stayed there long enough, they kind of adjusted to it. But our daily routine would kind of start like the bell would ring at 6 a.m. every morning, regardless if it was holidays or anything. Every morning, 6 a.m. And mine is a gentleman sitting there with sunglasses there. He and I roomed together, and a couple other guys, and our bell was just right outside our room. Well, it woke us up all right every morning, and so when we got bell sounded, everybody got up, then they'd get up, go to the bathroom or whatever. Then you'd come back and fix your bed. Then we would go downstairs. Those who were stayed upstairs would go downstairs into the living room. We'd have a short meeting every morning, well, almost throughout the week in a way, and we'd make sure everybody was there at the living room. Then when everybody was there, then we'd walk up toward the dining hall. When you got to the dining hall, you had your own place to stand or sit where you ate your meal. You just didn't go anywhere and sit where you wanted like we did here. So I had one place there where I had to go to, and I would stand there. Then later on, the big boys' dorm, the older kids would come in, and everybody kind of just go different ways, because they had their own place to stand. If you didn't have if your chair was empty or a chair was empty, they knew you were gone. It was as simple as that. Everybody knew where you were sitting or standing. And they had a waitress there, and she'd go around, check and see who was gone and stuff like that. And after everybody got in there, everything was all quiet. There wasn't no talking or anything. You couldn't talk to your friends or anything like that. You just stood there, wait for everybody else to come in. There's about 200 of us. After everybody comes in, it gets all quiet. We had a little song with like a verse to sing. She'd tap that like the hotel bell. She had one of those. She'd tap it. When it rung, we'd all simultaneously would sing that song. And after we sung that song, we remained standing there until everybody was quiet again. When it got all quiet again, to her satisfaction, she'd ring that bell again. Then everybody would sit down all at once. So then everybody would be real quiet again, just quiet to her satisfaction again, and she'd ring that bell again. Then we had for instance, this was a table here. We had an 8th grader sitting here and a 6th grader sitting here. And the plates were stacked up here, and the food was in the middle. And there was 8 to a table. The 8th grader here would serve the food, pass it down. And the 6th grader here had the dessert, fix the dessert. They would pass them down till everybody got their plates and their dessert. Then you got to eat. Then whatever after dinner was over, all the plates were stacked up here. Then it had like a 7th grader, 8th grader, as a waitress. They would come over there and grab the plates, clean the table up. But you didn't leave. You sat there. Sit there quiet again. Then that dorm, the dining hall matron, she'd walk around all over through the dining hall, just, I don't know what she was looking for, but anyway, just whenever she come up to a table, like we all had table numbers, like mine might be 5. She would say something like, all right, table 5, you're excused. We would all stand up, but we wouldn't walk out. We'd stand there behind our chairs. Then whenever she said it's okay to leave, we'd all leave, like in single file. We wouldn't just walk out, So then if you had an ornery guy in there, a person there, as you was walking out, they cut up or something like that, she made you come back. Come back, either sit down or make you stand up. Then she'd go back over there and walk around and see who was quiet enough to leave. She'd get them to leave. they'd leave. It just went like that, one table by one table. Then the people who were, the person that was ornery, that caused the people to stay, you know, they stayed there. And usually they were the last ones to leave. I remember one instant, it's about winter time. It gets dark about like 7:30 or whatever. I was outside, you know, playing around. There was a court, gym court, right across from the kind of catty corner from the dining hall. And I thought, well, them lights are still on, you know. And so I kind of got a better look at it, and here I seen these people standing there. And supper was over like 5:30 or 6. They were still standing there at the table until about I don't know what time they got out of there. It was like that, you know. And some students, they would say, "Well, it's just like prison here," you know, and stuff like that, you know, because the way we were. I wouldn't say treated, but you know how we were expected to, you know, follow the rules and stuff like that. Personally, I never did think of it as a prison or anything like that, you know, because largely, probably because you know, I didn't, like I said, I didn't quite know what was going on. I didn't get a grasp what was going on there. And but anyway, after breakfast, we'd go back. We had a detail, like mine was sweeping sidewalks. Or next 9 weeks, I would clean the hallways. The next 9 weeks, I would clean the stairs or something like that. So they give you a detail and stuff like that, you know, to work. Then about around 8 o'clock or so like that, you went to school. And the teacher there, they give you basic things, you know, like math and stuff like that, read social studies. And I had one teacher, her name was Miss Butchley, third grade teacher. And we'd go in the circle and she'd start reading a story, you know, to us. And every time, it never failed. I don't know I don't care what kind of story she read, boy, she'd start crying every time, you know. I guess she liked to read sad stories, I guess, I don't know. Then if she wasn't reading the sad story, making herself cry, she'd be talking about how many eggs her chicken laid, you know. And she'd say, some morning she'd say, "Hey class, my chicken laid 1 egg or 2 eggs or something like that," you know. And anyway, that was third grade. And back to the routine thing, like the lunchtime. Lunchtime, it was the same routine again. All the classes by grades would go in there into the dining hall again. Once again, same routine. You go behind your chair where you eat at. And same thing. Everybody gets real quiet, sing that little song. Everybody sit down, eat. Same thing. Then you go back to your dorm for a little while, probably about an hour or so like that. Then you go back to school. Then after school, I would, you know, me and my friends, you know, some had cars. Plastic cars, and we'd play cars, you know, and or shoot marbles, or you know, or go play out. They had like a little playground, had swings and little horses, you know, that rocked back and forth, and stuff like that. And then about supper time, you know, that was kind of on your own when you get up there. You wouldn't have to go back and gather, you know, in the living room. It was just supper time. You went up there. And same thing, you know, you get up there, you know, I had one place to sit, you know, and I'd go up there and stand behind. If you was the first one there, you're going to stand there about 30 minutes before everybody else get there. So I don't know if it's a good idea to be kind of last, I don't know, but anyway, you stood behind your chair, your assigned chair, all the time, 7 days a week, 3 meals a day, every time. Every now and then, you could ask to be moved, you know, or if the dining hall waitress, she decided you want to be moved, she'd move you. That's the only way you got to move. And sometimes, like I had a sister, older sister there, and she had a boyfriend, you know. And then sometimes that boyfriend, you know, he'd send his dessert to me, you know. I guess because he liked my sister, I guess. You know? So, it was like that, during dining hall. And of course, sometimes there was even fights in there too, in the dining hall. And they showed, when I got about in 5th grade, they showed a little dining room etiquette, and you were selected to go in that dining hall. They taught you how to set the table up and how to cut your meat, stuff like that, instead of stuff like that, and so that's what I practice. When I go out and eat anymore, is what they showed me, how to properly cut your meat and stuff like that. And anyway, I still see some people where they just. But anyway, but anyway, that's just what I learned. Properly stick your fork there and just let your knife glide through that meat, and learn how to eat with your left hand. And anyway, during the weekends, we'd go to town. There's a town about like about half a mile away or something like that, And this I'm talking about when your kids going to town when they were like 5 years old, 6 years old, 7, 8 years old, walking town half a mile away. And, that's there's no way you'd let anybody do that nowadays, But those days, it was like that. You could, you could walk to town, 5-year-old walking to town half a mile away. And it's hard to imagine. And some of the kids, they were, I think, maybe 4 years old, about the youngest I remember a student being up there. 4 years old. He roomed with me. One day he went home for the weekend. He never did come back. Well, I guess I thought, well, he's just too young, So about a week later, and finally I asked that dorm matron, said, hey, where's so-and-so? Where's he at, Come he didn't come back. She told me that, he had got ran over by a car. That's 4 years old, Think about that sometimes, It's pretty rough. Sometimes, I think about it, it was pretty rough, in my mind, mentally. But physically, there were things to do, like we had basketball teams and played baseball and football. And I didn't know how to play football, things like that. And then, but once I got accustomed to playing the sports, I liked it. That's how I started getting adjusted to the school. And there was sometimes, students ran away from there. I've seen one day where everybody's getting back into school, and there's about 4 or 5 girls. They was over huddled together. All of a sudden, boy, they all just ran to the wood, toward the woods. Just ran away. Then there's about 4 or 5 older boys. They took off after them. I don't know. They might have been running away too. I don't know. I didn't see them again either. But anyway, one of my cousins said he was telling me he ran away once, and I never did. I think I wasn't brave enough to run away. But anyway, he said he ran away one time. He said he got so far, and he was walking down the road, and this guy named Goodlow Proctor. He was our dorm advisor, and he said he come pulling up beside him. He asked my cousin, said, "Where you going?" And my cousin told him, "Well, I'm running away." He said, "Running away?" He said, "Yeah." And that Goodlow told him, "Well, you're going the wrong way." So he told him, he lived toward J, and he was going toward Miami. So he hauled him back to the dorm, And there was instances like that, people running away, and they'd come back and stuff like that. And there were some that would come up there, just for a little while, maybe 2 or 3 days, and they'd go home. And I guess maybe the parents decided to let them stay home, something like that. And but let's see, I think I got past that. You know, in the like supper time, like I said, on Tuesday, I remember Tuesdays they had cake, and Tuesdays I was one of the first ones up there to my table, and they had cake. And they had the cake already out there in the middle. And I'd go over there and look at that cake, look them over and see which one was the biggest one, and then I'd spot the biggest one. I'd write my initial in there. That was my cake. write the initial on the frosting. And anyway, some of the things like that, you know, the physical things like that, you know, the outside activity, it's just like I said, playing cards and playing basketball or football or whatever, you know, they had dances and movies and stuff like that, you know, keep us entertained. And but what I want to kind of talk about also too, you know, other than the physical thing, is that what I thought inside of me while I was there. This was like a daily activity for me. It was like like I mentioned, you know, there was a young boy, you know, he was just 4 years old that went to school there. You know, we had 5-year-olds and 6, you know, up to 14 or 15. And anyway, what I always thought was that, you know, about the other students. The other students, you know, it was like they kind of kept to themselves. The ones I knew in a way, you know, was only about 7 or 8 years old. They kind of kept things to themselves. I noticed that. Other than them being speaking English, that's where I started learning how to start speaking English better, immersed into it, because I couldn't speak English very well when I went to school, first grade. And anyway, I think about that sometimes, you know, how young we were, very young, and a lot of students that kind of kept to themselves in ways, but not, you know, like I said, like sports and stuff, you know, that's beside the point. What I want to talk about is that they kind of kept themselves, you know, somewhere, you know, I could tell, and I was the same way too. Is that students that were up there, maybe one didn't have a mom, maybe one didn't have a father, or maybe one didn't have either. Some were raised up by their grandmas, some were raised up by their cousins or aunts or something like that. And those people like that, it was rare that I know that I heard anybody having both parents. You know, it was that rare. And a lot of students, they were either full blood or they were half. They were either half Cherokee, half Creek, half Choctaw, or half, you know, they were just half, either one. They didn't have like, that I know in a way, they didn't have like, oh, I'm Creek, Choctaw, and named by 5 other tribes, you know. It was just either full or half most of the time. And I think about sometimes, you know, how some of the light, there were light skinned, you know, and we kind of bullied them around, you know, my age, where we were at anyway, in our dorm. In one instance what happened was that we was chasing that light skinned boy around, you know, and we didn't beat him up or anything. We just kind of bullied him around, pushed him around, you know, and stuff like that. One time he ran upstairs to his room, which was in the corner. He got in there and we pushed that door open, then we start pushing him around and stuff like that. We didn't hit him, just pushing him around. He got frustrated and got mad and got scared and all that. He was about maybe 10 years old, 12 years old, something like that. Like I said, we're all very young up there. And he got away from us. He got to the window. This was the second floor now. And he got so scared, you know, he jumped out that window. Second story, because we was bullying him. And I saw that, I said, no, that's not for me no more then. Made me kind of realize that, you know, he's a student too. But, you know, he was all right though. I actually watched him jump. When he landed, he just rolled. He got up and walked off. Everybody just kind of looked at each other. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Not really get beat up. No. But anyway, it was one instances like that, you know. And but there were some there, you know, who were light skinned. They didn't get bullied, you know. And we had one from Florida, you know. He was light skinned, but since he was white skinned, light skinned, we would just call him Wyandotte, the town. Wyandotte. Anyway, let me get back to my inner thoughts. I always thought that what is going in their mind, the students who didn't have a parent, either one or both, and it was hardly ever talked about. It's always just kind of kept in, the ones I knew anyway, and I did the same thing too. I lost my mom when I was probably about 10 or 11 years old while I was going to school up there. And after that, you know, I just kind of kept to myself. It was almost like I was ashamed to let them know that I didn't have a mom. And it was like that kind of toward them also. You know, you could see that feeling in them, that, you know, there was something missing with everybody. But, you know, when you got to playing, when you're young, you know, you start playing, you kind of lose, you know, you get back into your playful world, I guess you could say. And that's what I always kind of thought about, you know, students, you know, kind of keeping to themselves. And me, you know, that's how I was for a very long time. I just kind of kept things to myself. And then whenever Christmas comes and like that, parents would come after you, you know, they come after you, know, usually they'd say, who's that? You know, you'd ask, who's that? They'd say, oh, that's my uncle. Or then they would say, that's mom and dad. They'd say, that's my aunt and uncle. Okay, so then usually the way you would hear that one person didn't have a parent or something like that, it was from the other student. They would tell you. That's how I kind of found out who was, you know, who didn't have a parent, and, you know, who had parents and stuff like that. And I'm sure they knew about me, you know. And when I first realized that, you know, I felt kind of embarrassed about it was I was getting a haircut one day, and there was other boy over there sitting here waiting for to get his haircut. And that guy that was giving me a haircut, you know, we started talking. And he started talking to me in Cherokee because there's few employees there who could speak Cherokee. So, you know, he and I were talking in Cherokee, and he was asking me about some things about the family. And he said, you know, did your mom die? You know, you don't have a mom, do you? And it's like that. And I told him, no, I don't have one. And then I thought it was between he and I, you know. And all that time, that boy over here, you know, he was Cherokee, he could understand. Then later on, you know, he was asking me about my mom and stuff like that, you know. And I thought, golly, you know, I wish, you know, well, naturally, you know, nobody dies in your family, and I kept thinking, I wish my mom didn't die, you know, I wouldn't be going through this. And but him and I became friends, though, you know. He came up from a broken home too and stuff like that, and student wouldn't be there if they didn't have if they had a perfect family. They wouldn't be there. There wouldn't be no use, you know. If they were getting raised right, you know. If they had somebody that took care of them. Because a lot of them, you know, were from broken homes and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of stories. You can hear a lot of stories about that Indian school there, like these three sitting over here, you know. And I had a couple of friends over there. They went to Seneca. You know, they could tell you stories how they feel about how it wasn't always good, you know. And that we had I can go ahead and tell you some things, you know, what I witnessed. There was a nurse there, but she was pretty rough, you know, with students, you know, And all the students, they were scared of her. When they had to go see a nurse, they reluctantly went down there, And anyway, they called her a horse doctor, because she's so rough. And then she would, one day, third grade, I remember that, we were sitting in there. If you wore glasses, you took care of your glasses. Fortunately, I didn't wear glasses then. Anyway, she come around the room, going room to room, classroom, checking on the students' glasses. And this one girl had broken her glasses. I guess she had tried to fix it back. And she seen that. She looked at them glasses, you're not taking care of your glasses. Right in front of the whole class, It was an 8-year-old girl. Slapped her around till that girl started crying. Doing glasses down there. Take care of them glasses, she said. So that's one instance I saw, and and that, that always scared me, something like that would happen, Sometimes, just when I think things were going okay, getting adjusted to school, things like that would happen, and it was quite different, mindset-wise. And I had a friend one time. We came back from the movies, and I was downstairs, and somebody come here and said, "Hey, so-and-so's up there crying." So I went up there, and I couldn't find him. Finally, I heard some whimpering in the closet. Opened that closet, there he was, sitting in the closet crying. He didn't have his glasses on. And I said, "What's the matter?" He wouldn't tell me. And finally, I saw his glasses. They were broke. That's what he was scared of. He was scared of that nurse, And he was in the same class I was when that happened. But anyway, yeah. I said, "Well, we'll try to fix them." He goes, "No, we can't fix them." Then he told me, I guess he's so scared of that nurse, he said, "This is the end of me," he told me. I said, "No, this is not the end of it." So somebody had some extra glasses. One of these frames, these arms here were broken off, so we fixed it for him. So he survived. Yeah. But anyway, that's like I said. Kind of, I was wanting you to think, how I was like mentally also too at the Indian school. It wasn't really all carefree. We had these mental blocks also too. It's not just about going up there and get your hair cut and getting your mouth washed out. So which I never saw happen at Indian school. And, but if you made a mistake, something like that, they what they call hours. They make you work on Saturdays, all day long. Maybe sweep the floor or scrub the floor or something like that, all day long. That was your punishment. But I didn't see none of that. Where they said they put soap in your mouth or get swatted for speaking. I didn't see that anyway. Did you, Mona? Did you see that?
I seen some
Did you? Well, maybe some other time you can talk about it. But let's say, this is my version, how I saw things at Seneca. And, how much time do I have? Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I want to go ahead and kind of tell you about this story. One time, I roomed in a room. There's a corner. There was a porch there. It had a cover on there, and me and my friend roomed in the corner there. And you had these windows. You had to turn like that. There were tall windows like that. You had that little thing. They opened up like that. We didn't have no screen on there, and there was a tree at the end. Like, here's a porch. There was a tree right here, and our room was right here at the corner here. You could see the top of the porch. And anyway, one late night, I heard this, boy, just something screaming, hollering, panther or something, it was just screaming loud. And, boy, I was about 10 years old then. Boy, it scared me. So and then I got up, and it was middle of the night, and those windows were open. It was in springtime, so I got up and I closed the windows. Went back, lay down. And later on, I heard it growling again or screeching or whatever. And I got up, those windows were open, and I guess my roommate had gone down and opening windows. And so that's what we was doing. We was taking turns. I'd shut them, he'd open them, then because I guess he didn't hear that wildcat screaming around, and then at one point, though, I was hearing that, and I was afraid he was going to climb up that tree and then come on the porch and come in our room. And so, at one point, though, I got up, I was going to ask that guy, "You hearing that?" And I looked up there, and he was gone. I said, "Oh no, what happened?" And I walked around, and saying, hollering his name, couldn't find him, and I thought, "Oh no, I bet that whatever it was came here and grabbed him and drug him away." That's what I thought. I was all worried, and I lay back down, and here he comes walking in. I guess he'd been to the bathroom somewhere. Well, it sure scared me, though. Plus, whatever it was screaming around, and then I had to work. I worked in the kitchen, and it'd be dark, and I had to walk up there, and that was in the back of my head, hearing that, and then another story I heard was in Florida Seminole boys. They were out running around at nighttime. They said there was a building. There was a maintenance building. Said they was walking toward that. They said they seen this big old long tail go around the corner of that building. So something prowled around there sometimes. I don't know what. Nobody had come up missing though, like my friend I thought did. Okay, I'm open for some questions. Any bad thing back? Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
These were just some from when it was first initially established. It looked quite different than what it does for when he attended. That's an aerial shot of it.
Catherine, I had a question for you with your research.
Okay. All right.
You had mentioned that the population of the school had gone from mixed Indian population to predominantly Cherokee by the 1920s. Was there a blood quantum minimum required for the school attendance? And
I didn't find anything on that. I mean, at that time, 1920s, I'm not sure what the.
Well, the reason I ask is that a study was done of the 8 tribes in that area and the progression of their blood quantums, and they predominantly intermarried with white people or other tribes, and so their blood quantums began to decline, and by the 1920s there was very few of those Indians in that area that were eligible for federal services. But Cherokees, of course, by that time still had a high population of full-bloods, so I didn't know if
I wonder if that might be why, or
I don't think
part of
that
it.
was.
I don't
I
know.
don't think there was that many Indians from that area that attended.
it just attended.
Most of them
Yeah.
were Cherokee, Cree, Mississippi Choctaw, and Florida Seminole.
Do you think that might have been that they were shipping kids far away from their homes?
I think so. Us 4 brothers and sisters, we were sent there, and it wasn't, we all had mom and dad. I mean, they were there, but what they sent us up there for was because we didn't have a car, and there was no school close by, no bus routes back then, so they sent us there. They sent me. I was 6 years old. We got the room together, and I was scared at night. I would crawl in bed with her, and the matron would come in. She'd catch me every night. She'd give me a spanking because I was in bed with her. And then one night, I woke up because she was in there choking me, and she told me that she came in and that she caught me, that I wasn't breathing, and that she was trying to make me breathe again, but she was choking me. And, that was a lady named Miss Bruce. She was one of the girls' matrons, and she was really mean.
Name names, girl.
Well, and when I was talking to Lawrence yesterday about some of this, his dorm, the guy that was in charge of the boys' dorm, he was a Cherokee, Goodlow Proctor, who was a speaker, and I think maybe that was good for them, I think, because you guys didn't get in trouble for speaking
No,
Cherokee
none
or
at all.
anything like
No.
that. They spoke Cherokee a lot.
Yeah.
And I know that's a different experience from some of the other, other individuals who go to.
Lawrence, you remember Goodloe as a speaker?
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting, because as he was served on the tribal council,
Yeah.
and as a council member here, he
Mhm.
never spoke Cherokee.
Oh, really? Huh. Well, I'll take it back. I don't know, maybe. The only thing I heard the one say was G stew, because a rabbit ran across the road. Maybe not. But there were,
It might have helped though, having a Cherokee
Oh, yeah,
there.
yeah. Well, I'm not saying that in the sense that he was opposed to language or anything like that.
No.
I've just known him a long, long time, and I've
Yeah.
never known him as a Cherokee speaker,
Oh.
so.
there was a lady, her name was Miss Williams, Laura Williams. She was a Cherokee. She was in our dorm, and she knew my grandma, and her and I would always speak, and
Miss Watts,
Miss Watts was Cherokee.
Lucy Christie and Ida Christie.
Yeah.
They spoke
Yeah,
Cherokee.
there's a few Cherokee employees there. And I forgot to mention one other incident happened was this lady used to be the dining hall waitress. She was a head waitress. And one time I know her and my brother, younger brother. My brother was probably about 9, something like that. They got into argument in the cafeteria. And my brother, he's kind of stubborn, and anyway, they got into it, and she's telling them to leave, but and then they got a little bit more argument. Then she told them, said, "Well, if you don't leave here, I'm gonna go in the kitchen, go get me a knife." That's what she told him. And she was couldn't find out, she was an ex-pro wrestler too at one time. She didn't need no knife.
I also have a photo that we had found online of RFK.
Yeah, he
Visiting.
come up there. Yeah, Robert. Yeah, yes.
Back to David's comment, Goodloe graduated from Sequoia High School,
Mm,
and Mr. Franklin and I were just talking about, he
Yeah.
was deprived of his language at Sequoia High
Oh,
School.
really?
He could communicate. He wasn't that fluent of a speaker, but he could communicate.
Mhm. Yeah, he used to be a bus driver and coach over at Seneca. He was a good coach too.
He's a good person.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll keep my mouth shut on that.
Well, he was one of the funniest people on the tribal council. I remember he always had something to joke about.
Yeah, he was in 1968. You got to meet him, right?
Yeah, all the students got to meet Robert F. Kennedy there. He greeted us at the door, so I got to shake hands with them. Then a few months later, that's when he was assassinated. He also wrote his name on a blackboard in kindergarten class. And after he was assassinated, this museum, I don't know what museum it was, they came over there and was offering like $50,000, for that his autograph that was on that board, but that kindergarten teacher wouldn't go for it. So I hear that you said archives in Fort Worth or somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know where that would have ended up. That would have ended up.
I don't know where he ended up at. But he wrote his name on that blackboard though.
The school records, when we do genealogy research,
Mhm.
we are at Fort Worth.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know if,
Just about all of the Indian Territory, Western District of Arkansas, those federal court records, just about everything ended up, BIA records, they all ended up, for this area anyway, in Fort Worth. And there's a ton of information that's there that really hasn't been gone through. Kind of have to know what you're looking for when you go down there. And then the school is no longer there. We found these
Yeah.
photos, and today all that's left are the steps of some of the places,
I went
and
up to the dorms from
yeah,
Then
there's nothing left today.
Then the other thing I forgot to add was the dorms and stuff like that, mainly, they were just made out of bricks, then the inside the dorms, they weren't really colorful. It was either green or kind of light blue color, in little boy's building was, You didn't have that colorful stuff, and all stuff like that. It was just pretty, just one solid color, and it wasn't he wasn't bright or anything. Just,
You said, did I understand that you also had a sister that went up there as well?
yeah, I had three sisters actually.
Did you get to see them while you were there? I mean, they didn't try to, I mean, I know you can't stay in the same dorm together, but while you're on campus, do you get to see
Yeah,
them?
well, usually like just at a lunchtime or something like that, you know, just say hi, and maybe at like an event, social event, something like that, you know, we got to see them like that. But not everyday contact like, you know, you would, you know, at home. It was just every now and then.
So at your dining table, was it just all boys then?
No, it was mixed up. Yeah, then she'd have a little trophy, you know, if you had good people on there to give you, you got to eat that trophy. You got to have that trophy on your table. I think you got extra dessert too, I think, or something like that. Was it?
Somebody,
Yeah.
and somebody moved it that one time, took it away from the table that really had it, moved it over to another table. She wouldn't let us leave the dining room till whoever took it moved it back, and nobody would do it. I think we sat there about 3 or 4 hours, and nobody
Yeah.
went there.
It might be the group you saw.
Yeah.
On weekends, what were you allowed to do, or what was the weekends like there?
Yeah,
Free time?
yeah. If your parents just about had sent you money, they kept it for you, then you kind of checked it out, check your money like 50 cents or a quarter or something like that, you know. And you went to town, you know, and you got, I don't know, 50 cents was quite a bit a long time ago, you know. Wound up getting cookies or something like that, you know, and candy bars and stuff like that. But some of us that didn't go to town, we had these cars. They were plastic cars, like, and we would just push them down the sidewalk, you know, and have a race. You know, if it goes off, you start there again, and like that, and just. Or we'd have like trips too, in the weekend trips, you know, like skating and stuff like that.
And they took you all on a long trip before too, right? You said.
Yeah, summer school. You know, I stayed there summer school 6 to 9. Yeah, we studied the Seminoles and the Creeks, and we got to go to Florida. You know, and I liked it. Whenever after my mom passed away, I didn't hardly ever go home anymore. I just stayed at the school. I didn't want to face, you know, going home, not seeing my mom. You know, so I just had to, you know, really adjust to the Indian life, Indian school life, and stuff like that. And there was a few of them, you know, that stayed. You know, I don't know what their reasons were, but that was one of my reasons, you know, to stay at the Indian school.
Lawrence, when you went back to your home community, did you find yourself much changed from the people that were still there and had never gone to boarding school or gotten out of the community?
Yeah.
Very different from them?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, education-wise it was, you know, then speaking, you know, I was a little bit more, I guess you could say kind of like more advanced than them, you know, because, you know.
Did you find any hostility directed towards you because of that?
No, never did, yeah. But I know that I had all my brothers and sisters, they all have Cherokee names. I'm the only one that has an English name. They used to always say I was Yonig. Everybody had Cherokee names. I'm the only one that had English name.
And a lot of kids, most of the kids were poor up there.
Yeah.
And couldn't really afford new clothes
Mhm.
and such. And when Mr. Bush got married,
Mhm.
he didn't get married for a long time, and when he got married, his wife came and she started CCF.
Yeah.
She got everybody
Yeah.
signed up on CCF.
Yeah,
And
they call it Christian Children's Fund, what they call it.
lotion and shampoo and new socks, and all that stuff.
What was the transition? How different were the schools going from Seneca to like Sequoia? Like, was the
Yeah.
huge difference in how they
From-
treated or anything?
Most of the time, a lot of students from Seneca went to Sequoia anyway, you know, and that's what I'd done. But I had planned to go to Eufaula boarding school over there at Eufaula, because they're just now starting a new, they built new dorms for boys. For a long time, it was just for girls. And so that's where I was going to go. For some reason, I didn't want to come here. No, but anyway, summer school, I came here at Sequoia, and they go swimming, and they'd go to skating and all that stuff, activities like that. And I would never participate because I didn't like being there. And then that one day when that one of them older girls was asking me why I don't do all that stuff. I told them I don't like being here. And that's when she asked me, well, is it you or the school? And I thought about that. I said, well, maybe it's me. So, I started going to activities, and that's how I wound up staying in Sequoia. I got to see a lot of things. I went to, in my 4 years, I got to go to Six Flags 3 times, and saw some famous people, singers anyway, like Michael Jackson and Creedence. Got to go watch wrestling and movies, skating. And, Chicago, got to see Chicago. Same old group, Three Dog Night. I know some of y'all don't know who they are, but they treat us to those places like that. Well, I like that. So that made me want to graduate from there. Anybody else got a question or?
Question.
Yeah. How much did they allow, like, your traditions and some of your like
Tradition?
dances or whatnot?
About zero, actually. We didn't have no. They didn't show us no culture or nothing. It was just Euro. But some of these boys that went home, Osages or Pawnee boys, when they come back, they talk about powwow they went to, and I didn't know what they was talking about. You had to go home and find your culture, stuff like that.
But Sequoia did have stock dances.
Yeah, Sequoia changed a little bit.
Yeah, they have stock dances
Yeah.
out there.
Mr. Panther,
Yes.
was there a lot of pressure exerted on the students by the Quaker religion?
No, I think mostly it was either you were Baptist, Methodist, or I think it was a Friend. They call it a Friends Church, right? A Friends Church.
That's
Yeah.
the Quaker.
Is that a Quaker? Oh, I didn't know. But I went to
Quaker
Baptist.
department didn't have anything to do with the school when we got there.
Oh, I
BIA.
misunderstood.
Yeah, BIA, I understand, yeah.
I thought it was started by the Quakers
It was started
originally.
by the Quakers, but when we got there, the BIA had taken over.
Mhm.
So it was by the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Yeah.
I think it was taken over around statehood or by the BIA.
But you were required to be in Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts or 4-H. You were required to do all that. So we'll look up you whenever they went to old campus. And you didn't have no choice on all of that.
I hate it for them.
Me too.
They said I had to make but if you did good in 4-H, you got to go skating at Miami, and that was so much fun. So they gave me this big thing and told me I had to make a headscarf and no, a tea towel. It was this big when I started out, and I kept messing it up. By the time I finished, it was about this big, and I turned it in, and they took it, and I got to go skating. But to this day, I don't like to sew.
Then
Who owns the land now?
what?
Wyandotte tribe. They own that.
They got a health center and a fitness center and everything.
Casino.
Two casinos.
Lawrence,
Yes,
how was which church you went to, how was that determined?
the Baptist.
KKK.
So the school had nothing to do with, you just walked to some church?
Yeah. You just. Yeah, they
Were
went.
you required to go to church?
Yeah, it was required to go to church, but some of I say us, would ditch off and go into the woods.
Walked up that hill and
Yeah,
walked all the way down that dirt
Yeah.
road.
yeah.
Mr. Fitzgerald went to the Friends Church,
Mhm.
so he could look around and he knew you all was supposed to be in that church. So he couldn't skip the church, didn't he? He couldn't skip that church.
they used to have a flagpole. It wasn't actually a flagpole. It looked like Eiffel Tower. It was way up there, and that's where they hung the flag. And sometimes some of them kids would, when they take that flag down, they'd run. They'd swing way out there on that cable. They'd get in trouble for it.
From the time you got there until the time you left, when y'all would go into the dining hall and stand behind your chairs before you sat down, you had to sing a song? Was it the BIA song?
No, it was just a short verse.
It was. It was. Health and strength and daily, we praise thy name, O Lord. Amen.
That was it, yeah. But as I stayed there longer, the dining hall, the rules changed, and okay, it was like that when I was there, when I first year there. Then it kind of gradually evolved to where you kind of sit where you want and stuff like that. So, but I worked in the kitchen, so I didn't. It didn't really matter where I sit. And I worked in the kitchen from 5th grade to 8th grade. You couldn't work in the kitchen unless you were a 5th grader. So as soon as 5th grade came, I got in 5th grade, I went to go work in the kitchen.
Where were you in the order of children in your family, of your siblings?
7th child.
So you had older siblings that you could look
Yeah.
up to, and they probably might have been in separate dorms, but you knew they were there.
Yeah, I had one older sister in there. Then I had one older brother there for a little while. He was in 8th grade then. He graduated, and the other one, I had a younger brother and a younger sister. So at one point, I was the older one.
I worked with his sister Narcy, and she's the one that introduced me to the Rolling Stones.
Lawrence,
Yes.
I remember, I was going to school, I went to school with all your brothers there.
Yeah.
You as well. We were in 8th grade, we'd go to Seneca Indian School to play basketball. We didn't like to go up there, but you had a tiled floor. And that gym wasn't much bigger than this, but
No, not very big.
you could throw the ball in, the guy would turn around and shoot the other side. It was a small gym.
Yeah, it was a very small gym.
There were hardly no dribbles, but you could turn right around and shoot it.
Yeah. Yeah, the center part where you would jump beginning of the game, then your what they call a 3-point line nowadays, that right there, where your circle is, the center, that would go inside part of that jump center part of the center. It was that small. Yeah, because we'd score about like 80 points, and the gym was so short, yeah.
Was that the old gym?
Yeah, no doubt, that new one. Yeah, it was real small. Yeah.
The old one was old, but it had concrete floor and cracks in it, and even chalkboard the kids scored with. And then we would go down there with Mr. Proctor would go
Yeah.
down to Wyandotte and get them 2 White Tree boys to come and play for Seneca.
They used to have that old building. They used to have like a slide, like they do in airplanes. They had a slide there on the side of the building for emergency causes. And my cousin and them just said they were playing at gym one time. They was trying to make long shots, and that one threw that ball and he hit the back of the rim and it bounced off. And he hit that alarm. That alarm went off, and they all ran out of that gym. You see, all them kids were sliding down it.
Lawrence, you had metal backboards, wasn't it?
Yeah, backboards were metal. We'd go play somewhere. We had to get used to that backboard, the fiberglass. Then the length of the gym,
I don't know if anyone has researched, I haven't done a lot of research on the boarding schools really, but anybody that maybe knows if the boarding schools in like Kansas, Indiana, Oklahoma, how different maybe they were than some of the other ones in other states. Candace, have you researched any of the other boarding schools, or? No. Because I don't know what the difference, because you hear some of these other stories, and granted, Seneca and Sequoia, all of them have their negatives as well. Although I do notice that there's a lot of people there. It's a very close knit alumni. Is what I've realized with a lot of these boarding schools. But I'm just wondering how they might differ than maybe like Carlisle or something like that up in the Northeast, or.
Well, there's a depth of time difference too.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
the experiences that we're looking at here as well. Because, you know, in the early days of Carlisle and then some of the other schools that were in the Southwest, you know, where there were stories about if an unfamiliar vehicle drove up, the kids ran out and hid, they were gonna get taken to school and not taken to school in the community, but taken to school, you know, it's way outside the community.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of what's going on too is not just the fact that the schools were located in Indian country, but also there's a difference in what was happening historically.
Lawrence, I went to boarding school in 1970 up in Lawrence, Kansas at Haskell. And it was just transitioning from high school to junior college, but we still had to do detail. That's, I kind of classify that as boarding school. Mine was in the kitchen too, Monday through Friday at 6 a.m.
Mhm.
I didn't mind it. It's no different than living at Oak Hill with grandma and grandpa. You had to get up. Except I had about 500 pots and pans to wash. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was a good experience, man.
Yeah, I did too at Sequoia. I worked all my 4 years in the kitchen up there, you know. And just like I did at Seneca, you know, I worked 3 years over there in the kitchen, and Sequoia the 4 years all. Every meal, just about every meal. And that at the last though, I got on what they call NYC. It was a program where we got paid. I think I made a whopping $1.25, I think.
I was at Sequoia in the 90s,
Yeah.
and it's funny to hear some of Lawrence's experiences with Seneca, because some of them are very similar, but some of them are completely different. You know, they took us to powwows, they would take a band out to Salt Dance, Labor Day weekend, you know, stuff like that. So it was, in some ways, it was a lot more supportive, and then we had matrons, the Little were the matrons when I was there. One is the wife in the girls' dorm and the husband in the boys' dorm. And they're real Indians, you know? So they were real supportive of culture, language. And, a lot of Florida Seminole kids and Miccosukee spoke nothing but their language whenever they were outside class. And people didn't really get in trouble, but this was the 90s, you know? But we also had some kind of military-style terminology where if you left campus without getting signed out, you were AWOL.
Yeah.
So there was stuff like that too, where it was, you could see some of those holdovers from what Lawrence was talking about there.
There was one Seminole girl. She started there in sixth grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Not once did I ever hear her speak English. All the time it was Seminole. It was every time she talked to one of her Seminole friends, it was Seminole. I never did hear her talk English. I don't know if she knew how, and she was quiet in class. I don't know. I don't even know if she knew how to speak English. I just sure didn't.
Early 1900s till, you know, even the 1950s. And some of that was probably the BIA taking it over.
Yeah.
You know, we get some good that came out of that just because of culture possibly being allowed in a little bit more than it had been previously.
What was the reason why there were so many Florida Seminoles coming here for Sequoia?
I really don't know. I really don't know why, you know, they came so far away, you know. I really don't. Mona, have they ever said anything to you about why they?
I don't think they had the schools like we had up here. And,
Because a lot of them
you
were
know,
from
like
off the
Mississippi,
reservation.
They had Choctaw Central that they could go
Yeah.
to if they,
Yeah.
I never heard about a school in Florida.
Yeah, that's probably why. Huh?
School was a lot more lenient than Seneca was.
Mm.
You didn't have all, you had the rules, but they weren't strict. They always did, it was always that fight between the Cherokee.
Yeah, they had
Creek and have Cherokee.
Yeah, they was like that, you know. They had a lot of pride with their own tribe, you know, the Cherokees. They fight among. They wouldn't fight among themselves, but they get you with the Creeks or Choctaws, something like that. And if I got into a fight or something like that, I'd go find me a Cherokee buddy, So it was pretty. I don't know. It's hard to explain, the real thoughts, how the Indian school were compared to what you hear, how bad it was, but there were some good things about it, and it gave me an education, in the long run, I'm glad, I went there, but there's that sadness part too, and hopefully, one of these days, I can write some stories, about it, especially about that thing that was screaming around at nighttime.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if y'all had written a book, the alumni or anything for Seneca, because 100 years from now might be in this room that they're going to talk about boarding schools again. And they'll have a reference book.
Yeah.
I've talked about writing one. I planned on it. I don't like to really tell my stories because sometimes I'll write them on Facebook, but then I'll delete them real fast because I know there's some lady that's non-Indian around the area over there that was trying to find out. She was trying to question because she said she wanted to write the story about Seneca, and I said, why? Why can't we write our own stories? Why does someone else have to write it?
But we're the ones. But we're the ones got the true feelings about it, what went on. Versus just like an icing on a cake, and she don't have the ingredients. Why, the book would be so good.
It'd be good for all of you guys to get together and do like different stories.
Yeah, compile
a book like that.
How did being there affect your relationship with your siblings? I see them all, appear to be really close and that type of thing. Did you see a difference in some siblings maintained a real close sibling bond and some others then kind of lost the bond that they had?
Yeah, I think I kind of lost some of it, with bond with my siblings because, like I said, summertime or Christmas, Thanksgiving, stuff like that, they would go home, I would stay at the school. And I hardly ever, from the time from 5th grade until I got out of high school, I probably didn't go home maybe 3-4 times. I just stayed at the school. Maybe that's why they was calling me on there. I don't know. But,
As soon as they said school's out, we were ready to go home.
Yeah.
We had our bags sitting out there by that little sign that said California. Our box.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Okay.
quick one. This makes me think of Talking Leaves. Some bodies have Talking Leaves is a great improvement over what you live, it sounds like. When I worked in Indian education, we had a lot of students visit Fort Dixon of Southwest tribes, every tribe you can imagine. But you could tell they were really leery of joining us for projects and things. And they liked the cake and the calzone and everything like that, but it took them a while to feel acclimated, so if a student needs that, I guess it's a good thing, but I did get letters from a boyfriend from Chilocco, and they were kind of sad.
And this session here with them also with their help, this is for me. This at one time, this is probably the most people I've told about stories about Seneca. Usually I'll just tell them my wife or just a few people, but I never told anybody at at this amount. So there's a lot more stories to it. Just like I say, each one of them over there's got their own stories. Just like I do. I don't know I don't know what their deep feelings about, you know, what they think about, you know. But I can just tell you from my stance what it was like for me at the Indian school. I know it's something like it was. We didn't get enough to eat, though. That's what it seemed like, though, for me anyway. That's why I started working in the kitchen. And at Sequoia.
That explains a lot about you.
I remember one time at Sequoia, I could go behind the line and get my food and go sit down and eat. Well, one time I picked that big old piece of pork chop and sat down and started eating. I thought it was salt, and then put it in. I tasted it. It didn't taste right, so I put some more in there. Pretty soon I got there's sugar on there. Tasted a big old piece of meat.
Yeah, at Seneca, we'd get half an orange, and at Sequoia, we'd get a whole orange.
Yeah.
Or half a banana.
Mm.
Half,
Yeah.
just a half a piece of bread. You could get seconds except on milk at Seneca, at least at Sequoia.
Yeah, then when I worked in the kitchen, about that knife incident about my brother, there used to be this one guy worked in there, and I don't know, I always just kind of stayed away from it. And he'd always have a butcher knife, cut you up. That's what he'd tell me. Okay, get it. Seeing this way, I'd go that way. I don't know if he's just teasing me or what, but big old knife about that long, I don't know. Okay.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? Well,
Thank you.
yeah, I appreciate y'all coming out and listening, you know, and give you some kind of idea what it's like at Indian school. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Next month, August 17th.